No, sir, I wasn't no alcoholic.
So you're not an alcoholic, you're not a drug addict, but you're just a violent criminal. Is that what I'm hearing?
Oh,
So why did you break that lady in 1980?
I wouldn't say I was a violent criminal, because I really wasn't no violent criminal. I wasn't really raised to be no violent
Did you
criminal.
not commit rape in 1980?
Yeah, well, it was simple.
It was what?
It was simple rape.
We are going to take a blast back in the past to 2022. And at the end of this hearing, we are going to go over the facts of what he calls a simple. And it's anything but that. But with that, let's jump in.
He is currently serving a 231-year sentence for the offense of armed robbery. 2 counts of armed robbery having been adjudicated a habitual offender, having been sentenced on October the 24th of 1985 to 330 years, and to 33 years, I'm sorry, and as a habitual offender, May the 9th of 1986 to 198 years consecutive with the 33 years. Is that all accurate, Mr. Franklin?
So, yes, sir.
Mr. Franklin, your case was assigned to me, so I will begin our discussion today. Mr. Franklin, how old are you, sir?
66,
How long have you been in prison on these charges?
37 years.
Tell me a little bit about your educational background. How far did you go in school?
All the way to 12.
Did you graduate?
No, I quit in 12. Got a GED because I went in the service.
When did you get your GED? When you were in the service?
Yeah.
You were in the Army, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And you were honorably discharged in 1978, is that accurate?
Yeah, general discharge on the honorable conditions.
Okay. Mr. Franklin, tell me a little bit about, I'm looking at your history. I mean, you were convicted of forcible rape, and you were convicted of 2 counts of armed robbery. The forcible rape was in 1980. The armed robberies were in 1985. Tell me what was going on with you both in 80, 85. Why such violent crimes?
Well, back then, I admit, what I did was wrong. It shouldn't have happened. But I was a young man back then, and I just happened to get in the mix of the wrong crowd of people.
Well, Mr. Franklin, you're 66, I'm 76. I was a young man a long time ago too, but I didn't commit any rapes and armed robberies. I had all kinds of problems too. That doesn't tell me why you did what you did. I'm interested in knowing why you would go out and commit a forcible rape and then go out and commit 2 armed robberies right next to each other. So tell me more than just I was hanging with a bad crowd.
Yeah, well, I feel like
what's going on? Were you using drugs, alcohol?
That was a big problem. Drugs and bad company. That was the
All right,
main.
we'll talk about drugs. What kind of drugs were you using?
Yeah, well, it was marijuana and little cocaine.
All right, how old were you when you first started using drugs?
Oh, I was about 18.
What did you start using at 18 years old?
When I started using it.
What?
Why I started using it?
What did you start using? Marijuana? You said you were smoking marijuana, then you did a little cocaine. What did you start using at 18 years old?
When did I start? I started.
No. What drugs did you start using at 18 years old?
Oh, marijuana.
Okay. And how often were you using marijuana at 18 years old?
It wasn't often. It was I guess whenever I can get it. Because I didn't have.
Go ahead.
I didn't really have the funds to get it often myself, Other people that I was around, they had a lot to do.
When did you progress to cocaine?
cocaine happened when a friend of mine he was selling it. And that's how I got involved with cocaine, because he had started putting cocaine in mixing it up with the weed as he was rolling it up. And that's how I got started with the cocaine.
You started smoking marijuana laced with cocaine.
Yes, sir.
How long did you do that?
Oh, I did that. It wasn't often. I did it, but it wasn't that often though.
Okay, 1980, you got arrested for forcible rape. Were drugs involved in that? Were you on drugs? Is that why you did that back then?
Yeah, I was on drugs then.
Well, you're not describing a very significant drug problem. You're downplaying it.
Yeah,
Say, well, I got it when I can get it.
It was drugs.
Were you a drug addict back then?
No, I wasn't no drug addict, but it was alcohol too. It was alcohol.
Talk about alcohol then. How often would you drink?
I was drinking. I was drinking alcohol often, occasionally, mostly beer though. It wasn't no really hard stuff. It was just mostly.
All right. Well, let me stop.
Okay.
In 1980, you committed a forcible rape. Did you do that because you were a hardened criminal and you wanted to commit violence on a woman? Or were you high on something? I'm trying to figure out why you're committing all of these crimes. You say drugs were a bit of a problem, but you downplay your drug use.
Yeah,
You're drinking beer. Are you an alcoholic?
No, sir, I wasn't no alcoholic.
So you're not an alcoholic, you're not a drug addict, but you're just a violent criminal. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well,
So why did you rape that lady in 1980?
I wouldn't say I was a violent criminal, because I really wasn't no violent criminal. I wasn't really raised to be no violent
Did you
criminal.
not commit rape in 1980?
Yeah, well, it was simple.
It was what?
It was simple rape.
It was forcible rape. Rape is rape.
Yeah.
Legally, it might be this or that, but rape is rape and it's violence. Did you ever take any sex offender treatment while you were in prison?
Repeat that, sir.
Have you ever taken any sex offender treatment while you've been in prison?
What? Well, I ain't never. I tried to get into sex offense. So the man.
I hear you. Did you ever take it?
I tried to get in a sex offense, program, but the charge that I was charged with, that I'm in here now, they told me I wasn't eligible to get in that program.
Well, let me ask you this. You went to prison on the forcible rape charge, didn't you?
Yeah, I stayed in the parish.
What do you think your victim thinks about what you did to her in 1980? Does she think it was a simple rape?
Well, I don't really know, because.
Have you ever given that any thought about what you did to her?
Yeah, but see, back then it was, it's a lot more to it than that.
You were convicted of forcible rape. The jury convicted, right?
It was a lot more to it than that.
All right. Let's talk about the armed robberies.
What
What do you think your victims in I know you were the driver in one of them, but you were the armed robber in another one, and you viciously beat a woman in that armed robbery. What do you think she went through as a result of what you did to her?
Well, that was a spur of the moment thing for me, because I went to pick up a friend from work. When I went to pick up a friend,
well, it wasn't your fault. You just kind of decided at the last minute to go commit another armed robbery after you had driven someone to an armed robbery previously. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, you were involved in two separate armed robberies. You're not taking much responsibility here, Mr. Franklin. It's going to be very hard for me to give you any kind of a favorable vote.
Yeah.
Now, you sound like a well-educated man, You don't sound like somebody that doesn't understand what I'm asking. It sounds like you're just being very avoiding of your responsibility. Okay, let's talk about what you've done while you've been in prison. What kind of programs have you taken recently?
Recently, I took drug programs. I was in drug program. I did a lot of programs that, that caused me to get to the person that I was when I did them. That caused me to do them crimes. The program.
Let's talk about, you had a hearing in 2017, and you were denied at that point because you didn't have sufficient programs. What have you done since your hearing in 2017? I know you've got some certificates. You've done, you've got a few certificates. You've done a workbook. You've done some leading from here to there, some training. You've done a little bit. You've got a few certificates on a few things. But what programs have you done? Have you done victim awareness at all? Have you done any victim awareness classes?
Yeah, I went through the transition program.
What transition program?
Yeah, I went through a transition program with RDAP and all that dealing with alcohol, all that dealing with drugs, So I knew I had to have that program there. So I went through that program and I picked up all the certificates in that program. And from that program, I went to the VET program by me being a vet. I went to the VET program and I picked up a lot of certificates in that also to try to better myself. And I feel like
I hear you, and that's a good thing. My question to you is, have you taken any victim awareness programs? Have you taken anything that would help you understand what your crimes caused the people who were the victims in your case? What you caused to that lady that you raped in 1980, what you caused to that lady that you beat up and robbed in 1985? Have you given any thought to that, about what you did to them and what they're going through?
Yeah, well, I took a lot of different classes,
I hear you. I'm asking you specifically about what you have given consideration to, what you caused them in their lives. Have you done that? It's okay if you haven't. I just want to know if you have. It doesn't appear that you have, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah, well, all I know, I did a lot of classes that concerning the things that I did. I try to better myself in those situations by taking those certain classes. And I went through, I did everything I could to try to better myself. Now I wrote a letter to the board on my 5th try. That was before the COVID hit. So when I wrote a letter to the parole board, they wrote me a letter and denied me, saying that they wanted me to give them a few more programs. So I immediately went into the transition program. I left out one door, went in the transition program to try to better myself in that situation, because this is what the parole board asked me to do. So after I left out that program, I immediately went to the VET program. I didn't ever stop doing what I was doing to try to better myself.
You've done a few things and you've got some certificates. I do appreciate that. But it's one thing to get paper certificates. It's another thing to really understand and learn from your mistakes and convince us that it won't ever happen again.
Well,
that's the problem. That's the problem that I'm running into right now. Let's talk a little bit. You said you've taken some drug programs and rehabilitation programs. How are you going to stay sober if you get released? What's your plan to stay sober?
Well, since I've been incarcerated, I haven't did no drugs.
I'm not asking you what drugs you have done while you've been in prison. My question is, how do you plan on staying sober when you get out? Because you seem to have blamed everything on your peers and other people. I haven't heard you taking responsibility for why you are a drug addict, which you deny being, or an alcoholic, which you deny being. You tell me how you're going to remain sober if you're released early. I want to know what your plan is.
Because some of the programs that I went through, I feel like I made better progress and better choices by going through those programs that to help me to make better choices with myself. And I feel like there's no way in the world I can go back to doing that after I done went through these certain programs that I done took. It's
No,
way
let me follow you. You have taken enough programs to where you get out, you're just not going to drink or do drugs again. That's your plan?
There's no way in the world I go back doing drugs. There's no way. And that's a promise there.
And you don't think you're a drug addict?
I can't, I really don't see me being no drug addict. Now
Okay.
I'm
Not an alcoholic.
alcoholic. Now I can say I did alcohol more. I did a lot of alcohol more than I did drugs though. Now I probably was an alcoholic, but by me being young at age, I didn't realize I didn't really think I was an alcoholic at the time,
All right. What can you tell us about Mr. Franklin?
He has completed a good bit of programs. He's done well for himself. He helps the other offenders. Hasn't had a write-up in several years. I think since 2017.
Trustee.
He's doing well. I do agree with you that he needs to take a victim impact, so he can, better understand, how he's impacted the victims' lives, so he can grow.
Thank you, Warden.
Ward, he don't like doing limited duty. What's that about? What does he do every day?
What's that?
What does he do every day? It seems he got limited duty status.
Yeah. I work in the dormitory.
I think he helps out in the dormitory a little bit, his duty status.
All right, thank you.
You have a question?
No, sir.
Mr. Franklin,
What's up?
say you're mental health level 3. Are you on any medication
Yes,
for
sir.
mental health? What you take mental health?
Well, I can't name all of them. I'm taking about 10 different kinds of medicine though.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now we'll hear from Ms. Ventris.
Thank you. I just want to say that I think that my cousin, he can't fully understand because he's been gone for so long. But I know for a fact in my heart that he's not going to go out there and do drugs. He's not going to go out there and do alcohol. It's not the type of family that he came from. I understand he was young when he did those crimes. And I understand that, he's not understanding every question that you asking him. I fully understand because I've been out here in the world. I mean, to him, he's coming out here in a whole nother different world. So I'm standing on behalf of my cousin because I know my cousin. I was a kid when he was gone. And when he do get out, he will have a job. I have a cleaning services. He will have a job when he get out. I will make sure, because I will pick him up to come to work with me and make sure he get home safe. I mean, he's been gone for a long time. I've been praying that he gets out. I think that, he did most of his time. My heart goes out to the crime. I'm a woman myself, so I'm not down with, somebody just raping somebody, but he don't fully understand. So I'm on his behalf and I'm just praying that, you all see through him and give him another chance at life, because everybody deserves a second chance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ventris. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Franklin?
Mr. Franklin, could you move over? We can't see you.
Yeah, could you just sit, maybe move over one
there you
chair?
go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Can you
there
move
you
over into,
Now,
perfect, thank you.
37 years ago, when this happened, mother passed me after 5 years of him being incarcerated because she couldn't accept that. I know 37 years I lost a brother. Not only a brother, I lost my mother, then I lost my sister. And it's been real hard for me. We came up under Christian level. On the pastor of St. Baptist Church over in Harvey, Louisiana. I talked to my brother from time to time, I'm seeing, and I know without a shadow of a doubt that he is a changed person. He don't understand the questions that you was really saying to him. I talked to him, from time to time, and he have learned his lesson. He been in there 37 years. The Bible says to us that we're supposed to forgive and we're supposed to forget. My heart go out to the victims that happened, that he did this to. My heart go out for them. And I pray for the family too. My brother, amen, I know that he changed. And for us human beings getting back on drugs, I guarantee you that he won't do that because he's gonna be a part of my church, my ministry. I have a ministry that we counsel young men and women that are in and out of being incarcerated. Do a lot for the community. Anybody in New Orleans, Louisiana could tell you West Bank, East Bank. I worked it even with Chief Lawson in Greta. You know me, be around him a lot. I worked for him. I've been working for him for years. I do things for him, and I did things for the parish. But I can assure you that my brother, he's going to do the right thing. But I'm going to be there. He's going to be staying with me. Amen. For the Bible says, for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And he's definitely going to be serving the Lord. I'm asking for parole, by the mercy of God, please give him another chance. Please grant him. Amen. I want to be with him. Amen. And we don't have that much time left. I'm 63 years old. I don't know when the law may come in, but I want to spend my life, the rest of my life, the rest of his life with him. And I can show you to this parole board. I thank you for all the programs that he's been to. Thank you for what the program has learned him. And he has learned a lot. And I'm standing behind him 100%. So I'm asking for parole board, please grant him, amen, his parole today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Franklin, for your comments. We'll now hear from the opposition, Mr. Randy Meyer.
Sir,
Good morning. Our Assistant DA Jefferson Parish, we're opposed to Mr. Franklin's request for parole. As shown by his criminal record, he's a very violent individual, and he needs some help in countering that to have a chance of getting out and staying out. His responses to Mr. Marabella's questions, I think, clearly show that he's not rehabilitated and he needs additional work. He has no sobriety plan once he gets out. Most of the programs he's taken were in 2015. Living in Balance, according to the record, is Living in Balance and $100 in 2015. 2019, this board denied his request for parole and said no additional programming since the last denial. The only program that the record shows he's taken since then was 2021 for behavioral management program. There's no other programs in record. So he didn't get out there and get into other programs that would do him some real benefit. He does have some other certificates, but still needs some more work. The record also shows that he refused sex offender treatment and was removed from a nurturing parent program in 2017. So for those reasons, I think it's pretty clear he's not ready to be released and to get back into society, and we ask that he be denied.
Thank you, I appreciate your comments. Mr. Franklin, is there anything you'd like to say before the board votes?
Yes, sir. First of all, I would like to thank the board for having me once again. And to the victim, I would like to say that I'm really and truly sorry for the actions that I caused. But to the board and the victim, I would like for you to also understand, at the time of this incident, I was a young man that got caught up with the wrong crowd of people. I never meant to do what I did. And I knew once I got incarcerated, I knew I had to do something to try to better myself. So I got with God and I asked God to help me. I asked God to show me what I must do to better myself. So I immediately took action by trying to get these certificates and do the correct things of trying to make the right choices in my life. And I think I did a pretty good job with it because I know I'm not that young man that I was many years and decades ago. If the board would allow me, I can promise you and guarantee you and give you my word that I will never be that young man that I was many years ago. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. We appreciate your comments. Mr. Franklin, I appreciate your talking with me. I think you answered me as honestly as you could. I don't think misunderstood my questions. I think that you understood them very clearly. I think you've worked a lot. You've done a lot of things while you've been in prison. Since the last time you had a hearing, you've gotten some certificates. You've gotten life skills training, reading from here to there, managing my life, financial peace, managing my life workbook, a transition program. You've taken a lot of things, as you say, to better yourself.
Yes, sir.
And those are good things. But I think you need some programs, and I think you need to understand what your crime has done to other people. I don't think that you realize that. I mean, you continuously, even in your final remarks, blame other people, the people you hung around with. They didn't cause you to rape that lady in 1980. They didn't cause you to commit 2 armed robberies in 1985. You need to understand what your crimes and what your violent crimes have done to the victims. You also need to develop a sobriety plan. Whether you wish to admit it or not, you're an alcoholic and you're a drug addict. And until you recognize that and put together a plan, now you may have certificates that show what one should do, but you haven't expressed to me what you're going to do. You say, oh, I've taken all of these classes. I ain't going to do drugs. I've heard that a million times. That doesn't work. You did drugs back then because life was tough. Life is not going to be easy if you get out. It's going to be tough again. All of the problems that you had when you were younger are still now. You've changed. You're 66 now. You're not, 22, 23, 24 years old anymore. I understand that. But I think you've got more work to do on yourself to recognize what you've done to make sure you don't do it again. My vote today would be to deny for all of those reasons. Good luck. I'm just wondering. Just want to ask them.
Mr. Franklin, you have a poor supervision history. You were on supervision when you committed these two armed robberies. And that's troubling. I'm going to read to you a statement that was made by one of the victims. That PNP worked real hard to locate. The victim said that they appreciate the efforts to find them. They said that that was so long ago, and it really didn't impact my life, but for a few days. I hope Mr. Franklin was able to find a path away from crime and wish him well. I moved on long ago, and thank you for reaching out. That's what the victim, one of your victims said. I thought it was important that you hear that and wish you well. For me, due to your outstanding transition plan, your outstanding family support here today, my vote is to grant. And the warden's comments, didn't have it right up since 2017. And frankly, your age. I don't see you as a public risk anymore with the support that you have. So my vote is to grant, and I'm just gonna recommend some community service at your brother's church. Make sure you stay engaged with the church. But that is my vote. Only one vote.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. Appreciate your comment, Mr. Franklin.
Franklin, it's a tough case. I'm going back and forth on it. Still going back and forth on it. I agree with both of my colleagues on what they said. But due to your age and your brother's support, I'm going to vote to grant also. But I would like for you for the first 6 months to see your probation officer at least once a month and undergo random drug screening.
Okay.
Okay, you have 2 votes to grant, 1 vote to deny. Is that sufficient to grant? Okay, Mr. Franklin, your parole has been granted with the following conditions: that you do community service work as well as report to your probation officer for the first 6 months in random drug screens. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Wow. So it's just me? Okay, let's unpack this. And thank you, Richard, for providing the information. We have in front of us the appeals for what he calls a simple sexual assault. If 2 men robbing a 15-year-old girl at night and taking turns sexually assaulting her is simple and complicating, then gosh, I guess he's right. But yes, that's what he was found guilty of doing. And it is bizarre to me how he actually tried to play it off in a way where I'm thinking, I don't know, was it his girlfriend? She said that, was there something that is not so clear here? How he came to that conclusion to tell Mr. Marabella that after reading what he did to this little girl is insane. And then you have somehow he got a little slap on the wrist because what's the big deal? It's just a girl. It's just a child. It's just, the total violation of someone's everything. They let him out. And then he did a horrible armed robbery where he harmed people. Now, if you feel he got like a bajillion year sentence. I mean, it was hundreds of years, not a life sentence. They just tap on all these years. And because of Act 122, he's eligible for parole. And if you think that he should, I guess that's your own argument, right? He's older. They're motivated to reduce their costs of taking care of older inmates, but they made that decision. He hasn't done anything that I'm aware of to get locked back up, and it's been a couple of years, so maybe they're right. But let's jump in. So he had a co-defendant in this case. Remember, it was 2 men and a girl, 1979. Let's just read down the quick facts. The grand jury indictment. This matter is still pretty dumb. So evidence on September 28, 1978 indicates that on the night of August 9, 1978, a 15-year-old girl was seized, sexually assaulted, and robbed by 2 assailants. A tip from a confidential informant the next day led to the police to a person who denied participating in the offense, but he told officers that Hamilton was one of the two assailants, and Hamilton was a co-defendant. They arrested Hamilton, and Hamilton confessed and implicated Franklin. Now, this is the appeal for Hamilton, and we're not going to go into that. We'll jump right to Franklin. But what was interesting about that is his co-defendant had the IQ of had a very low IQ of 56. So there was questions about that and whether he can, know what he was doing, et cetera, et cetera. And that's always, I guess, his appeal is interesting in the sense that the victim did not make a proper identification of him. She actually made identifications of other people and not of him. So there are interesting things in this appeal. Another interesting thing is that he claims he was taken from his home and beaten severely by the police, which, why not? I mean, I could believe that happened. So evidence adduced in the hearing, the motions of press showed that the following on August 9, 1978, two men assaulted the victim. In the case, investigators of the offense headed to Detective Stanley with Gretna Police Department eventually led to defendant arrest in the home of his parents in New Orleans on August 13, 1978. The arrest came at the hands of the combined force of New Orleans Parish Sheriff Police officers, including Bergenson, who traveled across the river to the company office after the defendant booked in New Orleans. Returned to prison in Gretna shortly thereafter. The defendant confessed. Of the three Gretna police officers, Ferguson alone testified in the state of the suppression hearing. In the count, the defendant received his Miranda warnings. Just prior to the tape-recorded interrogation, that interrogation took place in his office. The defendant gave sharply different accounts. He testified that the officer stormed into his parents' home with guns drawn, snatched him out of the bed, tell him to get ahead and say that he did it, so it will go easy on him, and thrust him nearly naked into the patrol car. Booking in New Orleans lockup proceeded without incident. Defendant accounted, but matters took different course on the trip. Defendant claims that threats of the officers to kick his black ass turned to physical abuse at the Gretna station house. The alleged abuse spanned Ferguson's attempt to smash the defendant's head against the side of the car and beating administered by the officers outside the station house, followed inside the taking of pubic hair samples at knife point. What they mean by it, knife point. And beating by all three officers in turn. Alone in Ferguson office, defendant added that he was recovering at the time from surgical removal of one of his testicles. That's random. And became alarmed at the prospect of harm to the operation. This confession, he alleged, came on the heels of at least of the last set of the beatings. Defendant's parents corroborated his account of his arrest. I mean, look, it's why I think it's possible to believe that police would beat up. That police certainly handled things differently in the late 70s. If you believe the movies, I mean, I have no reason not to believe his story. That was just part of his appeal, but they don't really go into the other details. Which is interesting, but he lost that appeal, of course. And then we can go into the there was something else I was reading, which was interesting again, which is that she never pulled him out of a lineup. She said that it was actually someone else in the lineup, and at no point, but he's not claiming innocent. So I don't know. I'm not gonna. I'll put the links in the description if you want to read it. But now here's his armed robbery. And I think they say it's common that people don't pull. Lineups aren't always, guaranteed. So the defendant was charged with with armed robbery and convicted by a 12-person jury. The state subsequently instituted a multiple offender bill proceeding and sentenced him to 198 years at hard labor without benefit of probation. So the court, then he appeals this. Now, this is the facts of what happened in this case. On March 13th, 1985. So this is 1985. So this would have been 7 years after his crime, not being convicted, not serving prison, right? So he really served no time, very little time for doing that horrible thing to a 15-year-old girl. But what do you expect? It's just a child. So on March 13, 1985, at approximately 1:30 a.m., Mrs. Ann DeBerry and Mrs. Missouri Beck Wesley were approached by a black male subject as they left their place of employment, Shoney's restaurant in Clearview Parkway. The subject grabbed Wesley by the hair, thrust a gun in her face, and ordered the woman to re-enter the restaurant. So as you can see, this is not a normal robbery. This is violent. He grabs her by the hair, pulls out a gun. She unlocked the door and found the night porter, Joseph Triple, standing just inside. The employees were herded into the kitchen in order to lie down on the floor. DeBerry, the manager, was struck several times and forced to open the safe. As the subject removed currency, she attempted to disarm him. Or no, he attempted to disarm him. Wow, that's brave. However, no, she attempted to. She was overpowered and struck several times on the head with the gun. Wow. The subject then grabbed one of Wesley's legs and, after dragging her across the floor, struck her also. The subject escaped with $1,200 from the safe. That is a big hit in 1985. Triple called the police and, upon arrival, provided a description of the subject and the vehicle. During the course of the investigation, the defendant developed as a suspect. He was arrested in Gretna on April 18, 1985. So it took about a month to arrest him. While occupying a vehicle in Joseph Triple, a 25 caliber automatic, which had been purchased by the defendant on February 21st, 1985, was found on the right rear floorboard. A photographic lineup was prepared and presented. Both women identified the defendant as the gunman. So as you can see, this is not normal crime. This is not normal armed robbery. This is vicious, brutal stuff. And he should have never been out after his first offense to commit this one. And I can see why the judge gave him all those years. But I'll put the links in the description. How do you feel about this? Do you think that he should have gotten paroled, or do you think that not being honest with himself about honest about what he had done, and Act 122 was created to parole a inmate population that is getting older and older and older, which is becoming more and more costly for the profit publicly traded run prison system in Louisiana. So you pass legislation to help get these inmates that are now becoming too costly, get them paroles, and places like the Parole Project, which are, also like tax funded, non-for-profits. It's all an initiative, follow the money, but maybe only time will tell, right? He doesn't give me the sense that he's dangerous at this point in his life. That's me. But love to hear your thoughts. And with that, I'll let you go.